Hi everybody, it's Lauren. I know some of you have missed me. I know it's been a while since I did any video blogging, but recently one of my friends and I were talking about it and she kind of encouraged me to get back into it. So a little bit about what I've been up to the past few years. I was in social work for a while. As some of you know, I went to college to get my bachelor's degree in psychology. So I was working in that field for a while. I had a few jobs in that field, actually. There was one that I did for a few years, so that's kind of going to be the one that I'm talking about. But I had a few other jobs before that in the field. So there was one that I did the longest. I guess dating life has been okay. Social life has been okay. Pretty much with dating and friends and everything, just making sure that I'm hanging in there with the pandemic, wearing my mask when I go out, keeping all the restrictions in mind, things like that. So, I really just think that it's been, a big adjustment for everybody. Recently, I guess not too recently, last year my mom was diagnosed with cancer right before the holidays. So I've been dealing with that. My friends and family, everybody's been super supportive. And as most of you know, my mom was widowed twice, already lost my father and my stepfather. So, it's just a big adjustment for us, and, we're dealing with all of that right now. But, my mom is in stage 1, so we do believe that she'll be able to fully recover. We've just been taking her to chemo appointments, and again, everybody's been super supportive. She has a team of specialists working with her and all that type of thing. And I guess another point of this video, I did lose my job back in November of last year. So that's kind of the point of this video. This is kind of why I wanted to come out of retirement. I wanted to talk to you guys today about toxic work environments. I believe that a lot of people might be working in a toxic work environment and they might not even realize it. Examples of a toxic work environment can be something like, you say something to a coworker and for whatever reason it gets taken out of context, and then, one of the higher ups wants to talk to you about it. Or more specifically in my case, I had a manager that I thought she had my back and I thought she had my friends' backs. But then whenever I would have an evaluation with one of her bosses, they would say that, well, so-and-so didn't say that you had been doing any of this, or so-and-so isn't reporting any of this. Or like when I would talk to this particular boss about certain things, me and her would come to an understanding, whether it was right or wrong, and then I would have to hear about it from a higher up, and I would be like, I thought this was resolved, I thought that, I wasn't in trouble for this. So, a toxic work environment to me is pretty much any time where there is a lot of backstabbing, a lot of betrayal, that type of thing. Anytime that you can't trust anybody, especially the people that you're supposed to be able to trust. I think another example of a toxic work environment in my case was, to give you guys a little backstory about what I did. Obviously, I can't say the name of the organization because it's a confidential thing. So I worked in a battered women's shelter, and I was an advocate. And so what that means is I would do things like case management for battered women. I would take them to the clothing closet. I would run the desk. I would do hotline calls. And when I first got there, I really liked the job, and I felt like there was a lot of, a lot of opportunity for growth and that type of thing. Like, it used to be a really fun place to work. And then it got to the point that rules were changing all the time. And I know people are probably going to say, that's part of life, yada, yada, yada. I get that. I don't really have a problem with change, but I had a problem with, say, the hotline calls, for example. So, for those of you who don't know what a hotline is, basically it's just a form that we fill out anytime that somebody calls the hotline. So whether somebody's trying to come in for shelter, whether somebody wants to sign up for counseling or support groups, whatever the case may be, basically you have to fill out a form for that. And so over time, obviously they would change the criteria for what they were looking for on the hotline sheets. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I learned pretty fast. But I think when I had a problem with it, it became, would show up in evaluations, oh, you messed up 50 different hotline seats. And I was like, well, you didn't really tell me that, that you were changing them. I mean, I think that was the biggest problem at this organization, was that they never really told us that we messed up until we had already messed it up. Like, they never told us that they changed the rule until after the fact. And, like, we would have some really, me and my friends who worked there, we would have some really bad evaluations saying you did this and did that and you didn't follow the rules and all that. And it would be like, well, you never told us that the rules changed. You never told us that there was a new criteria that we were expected to follow. So, I mean, it just got to be to the point that it was very traumatic. It got to the point that me and any of my friends, we were never getting complimented or praised for anything. It got to the point that any time that they would criticize us for anything, like I remember I had one role and I was the only one who was doing this role. I was basically the welcome wagon at this organization, right? So I would be the only person who was in charge of orders of protection for new people, immediate case management needs, immigration for those who need it, things like that. And I was the only one doing it. And they complained at first that I wasn't, it took me a while to spread my wings in that role, I'll admit that. And so they complained, that I wasn't going fast enough, I wasn't meeting with clients fast enough. And so when they said that, obviously I took the criticism to heart and I just made sure to do a complete 180 and I made sure that I changed it. So that way when I wanted to apply for a new job opening, I thought that I would get it. And it was like every time that I wanted to apply for a new job within the company, every time that they would compliment me, the few times that they did on something that I had done well, it got to the point that, well, you still did this wrong, so we're not going to give you this position. So, it got to the point that it was very discouraging, even to the point of me trying to find other jobs, because I would be like, if these people can't even see what a good job I'm doing, or they say I'm doing a good job, but then they dig up something that I did wrong 6 months ago and I want to apply for a new job, then I'd be like, then why would a new company see what I can do, It just got to the point that it was very frustrating, again, very discouraging. Very scary, because we were always worried that we were going to ultimately lose our jobs. And especially for me, because I am a perfectionist, so I am one of those people that when you tell me something I'm doing wrong, I make sure that I correct it. And so then it gets to the point that no matter how many corrections I make, it's never good enough. So ultimately, back in November, keep in mind I got terminated actually for following protocol. And the protocol is basically whenever somebody comes into shelter, they have to come in with a police escort, right? That's how it's been for the entire time. I was at that organization for almost 4 years, right? So somebody comes to the gate without a police escort. And this may or may not be relevant to the story, but apparently she didn't need the bed because she left later that night anyway. Probably to go back to her abuser. I don't know for sure. But anyway, so some managers had actually talked to me about that, and they asked, why I didn't let her in. And I said, because she didn't have a police escort. So I told her, go to the police station, it's not that far from here, and then, they'll be able to bring you in. And again, the managers talked to me about that, and they were like, well, why didn't you ask us or whatever? And, I apologized, and I said I didn't ask you guys because I was following the protocol. And I think sometimes that was kind of my frustration with that, too. For one thing, it was one of those things where, it had been resolved, or so I thought. Everybody had talked to me about it. And then one day I go into work on Sunday. I get called into HR, and they say that they talked about it again, and they decided to terminate me for it. And I'm like, how do I get terminated for following the rules? For doing protocol that's been that way since day one. Like, I didn't understand it at all. And I felt like there were so many catch-22s at that organization, because it would be like, if you ask a manager for help, then it's like you don't have any, you don't have any confidence in what you're doing. You should already know the answer to that. But if you don't ask a manager for help, it's like, why didn't you ask a manager for help? That's what they're there for. So, I mean, it just, in a way, it was kind of a blessing in disguise. So I have been just finding myself. I've been, as some of you know, I did some promotional modeling over the years. So, I mean, I've been looking into some of those jobs. Again, I'm doing video blogging again. I have been able to get some more rest, work on myself and my mental health. And again, taking care of my mom and social life, dating life. So, I mean, it has been a bit of a relief to not be able to, not be able to work, but I mean to not have to worry about the stress of work, especially when it got to the point that there were some days it was actually so traumatic that I didn't want to go to work because I didn't know, what they were going to throw at us. Are they going to throw at us a million new rules, or are they going to dig up something that we did? Or, I mean, I admit I wasn't perfect when I worked there. I did actually have one evaluation that was actually so bad that I had no choice but to walk out of it. Because basically, my direct supervisor, this is why I think that this was a fake person. Because she would always compliment me, she would always praise me, she would always thank me for this and that. But then when I go to an evaluation with her bosses, it's, well, you don't show empathy to clients. You're mean to clients. You do this and that. And I'm like, I don't know where you're getting this. Or are you taking one thing and you're over-exaggerating it? Or are you taking something that was out of context? Like, I don't know if because I work with 99% women, if it was just a catty environment or what it was. But I got really, really sick of everything I said and did getting taken out of context. So in a way, it was really a blessing in disguise to take a break from it. But, yeah, it was pretty traumatic. And I was really looking forward to trying to move in or move up within the company so that way, it would look good on my resume. And, I don't like any terminations on my resume, obviously. So, I'm just going to hang in there and, go back to work whenever I feel like I'm able to go back to work. I am actually looking for legal representation for them. I haven't really had any luck so far with that. So, if anybody does know of any good employment attorneys, that would be very, very helpful. You could just, leave them in the comments. I really am serious about getting compensated for my emotional distress from this organization. I do think that a lot of them are phony. I do think that a lot of them don't have empathy with their employees. Honestly, I think most of them don't deserve that job or deserve to be in the positions that they're in. And that's coming straight from the heart. But if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, you know what to do. Just drop them in the comment section, or you can inbox me on here. Let me know if you need anything else. Have a good day, guys. Bye.